bad conditional reasoning happens all over this test, and it happens in multiple question stems, right? Not just flaws. It happens in strengthen and weaken. And what are the ways that we have bad conditional reasoning? Anybody?
Necessary first and then sufficient.
So we act as if a necessary condition is sufficient. All right, so I want everybody to take a minute and come up with an argument that does this, that takes necessary and acts as if it's sufficient. Well, Giovanna said, so let's look at this one and then we'll give everybody a chance to work on there. She said, if I carry my umbrella, it must be raining. So let's say that she says, when it's raining, I have to, let's start out with like the premise just to add to hers. If she said, whenever it rains, I need my umbrella. So her premise is, if it rains, I need my umbrella, right? And then she said, so then her conclusion here that was flawed was, if I carry my umbrella, it must be raining. So do we see how she takes this necessary condition and acts as if it's sufficient? All right, so let's add on to Jess's to make hers work. Hers says, let's say that this is her conclusion. This is going to be a fun drill. She says, I am smart because I graduated from Stetson Law. So how would we diagram that? I am smart because I graduated from Stetson Law. Brittany, how do you diagram that?
Smart to Stetson Law.
Okay, so what is her conclusion in that?
Oh, wait.
I am smart because I graduated from Stetson Law.
Right. So I'm smart to.
What is her conclusion?
No, wait, backwards.
Yep, slow down. Just slow down for a second. What is my conclusion? I am smart because I graduated from Stetson Law.
Oh, I am smart.
There we go. So what side does smart go on?
The right side.
Yes, the conclusion, right?
Yeah.
So then what's our if then statement?
So if I go to Stetson Law, I am smart.
Excellent. So if we were going to make this flawed, what would be the premise? If this is, let's say that this is a flawed argument, what would be the premise that would make this flawed as if acting as if necessary is sufficient? What would be that statement? And type it in the chat. I'm making you guys think extra hard this morning.
I'm sorry. What was the question again, please?
What would be the premise to make this conclusion flawed as if confusing necessary for sufficient?
Okay.
This is hard, Giovanna. Excellent though for everybody that said it. So it makes no sense, but let's say we had the premise, if I'm smart, if you're smart, you go to Stetson Law. Excellent. And so if we were to make a flaw, like if the premise was anybody that's smart goes to Stetson Law, so therefore, since I went to Stetson Law, I must be smart. Do we see that and how that works? Excellent. All right. So
that's what I was trying to say.
Well, yeah, I figured in your head, like yeah. So let's think about what's another way that we can have bad conditional reasoning.
Taking connecting like a middle, like a secondary premise to a necessary condition.
Yes, yes. But more obvious, like the more obvious one is whenever we act as if a sufficient condition is necessary. So how do we confuse So we just did confusing like acting as if a necessary condition was sufficient. What does it mean whenever we take a sufficient condition and act as if it's necessary? So I want you to write an argument. So you make sure you have a premise. You could have more than one premise if you need to, and a conclusion for this. And we want it to be confusing, like taking a sufficient condition and acting as if it's necessary. Okay, so we have none. Nobody has submitted any. So, oh, wait, we have one. Okay, let's work off of whatever. Okay, so Lynn. Okay, so Lynn at least gave us sufficient. I don't even know how to change this into one. Sufficient.
I wasn't sure how.
Okay, so how this works is you have to have an if-then statement and you have to have another if-then statement. So you have to have an whole argument. So I'm going to give you an example. What would be sufficient but not necessarily necessary? If you sell a $1 billion company, you will be happy. Since I did not sell a $1 billion company, I will never be happy. Do we see that? Where how I'm acting as if something that is sufficient for something to happen is necessary. Some people call this a false negation, but they're not going to say false negation in the LSAT answer choices. They're going to say confusing a sufficient condition or a confusing one that is enough to make something happen as if it's the only way for that to happen. So I want everybody to come up of their own now doing this. And if you already did one, come up with another one.